third webinar.
This meeting is being recorded.
This is our third webinar in this tech webinar series. Today's topic is being employer from an employee. For the starting, I want to give the mic to Afroza Apu for saying something to us. Thank you, Apu.
Thank you, Naima. Good morning, everyone. First, may I thank our speaker for taking part of this webinar. I also want to thank all of you on behalf of my committee for joining this morning. Today is our third event as part of the monthly webinar we are hosting from ABIA Great Lakes chapter. We will bring different topics for professional developments as well as technical seminar from our industry leaders and scholars. I hope you are looking forward to the discussion as much as I am. We appreciate your active participation and feedback. Without further ado, giving back to Naima.
Thank you, Apu. I am going to introduce our today's speaker, Akhtar Jaman Bhai. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Akhtar Jaman is the owner and the principal engineer of Advanced Engineering Services Incorporated. Before that, he worked in ATC Group Services LLC for 20 years, where he served as Senior Geotechnical Engineer Branch Manager. He has over 30 years of experience in geotechnical engineering, field quality control, and quality assurance for construction projects, SPCC plans, environmental consulting, and material testing operation management. He has extensive experience in project management, including proposal preparation, scope and work plan development, project budget management, client relationship, invoicing, collections, etc. He also taught soil mechanics, advanced geotechnical and construction engineering classes at Purdue University, Calumet. Akhtar Jaman earned MSc degree from Texas Tech University in Geotechnical Environmental Engineering and BSc from BUET in Civil Engineering. Please welcome Akhtar Jaman Bhai.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining this morning. Extremely sorry about the technical difficulties we ran into. I don't know if can everyone hear me okay?
Very clear, no problem.
Awesome. Again, thank you for the kind introduction and thank you for joining us this morning. So will one of you will pull up the slides, or do you want me to do that?
I can share it. Let's see. I can share it, and then you can tell me to move, the slides as you like.
Or I mean, either way, I have it open too. Can I share my screen or?
You should be able to.
Yeah.
So I'll go to share my screen. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and start. And I don't know, এখানে কি সবাই Bangladeshi or Bangladeshi origin, or I mean, I just wanted to know if I need to stay in English all the time, or can I mash up?
You can use Banglish.
Banglish is good?
Yes.
All right, good. And I encourage and I request everyone, if you have any questions during this conversation, please feel free to raise your hand or ask questions. I want this to be an interactive one rather than just, I am speaking and I don't know if everyone is falling asleep or not. Hopefully not, right? In any case, I will start with basic questions. And then I talked to Mahmoud. Again, thank you, Mahmoud, and thank you, Naima, for allowing me to do this. And of course, Shumon who was kind of the initiator for this. But what I try to do is I try to keep my presentation as general as possible, so hopefully it will benefit other those are not in my particular field, because I had some, obviously uniqueness when I started. There are certain things, and we'll talk about that at the end, of course. So I'll go through some general points, general discussions. That way, hopefully it will connect with everybody. And then we can kind of talk about how I ended up doing what I'm doing. So first question is, why do you want to be an entrepreneur, or why do you want to be an owner or employer, if you want to call it? Obviously, you want to be your own boss, right? And there's definitely a sense of self-satisfaction, self-containment, if you want to call it, sense of accomplishment, right? So if you feel like you've done something. And one of the things that I am finding more, which I did not know or realize before I started doing this, is you can actually have increased opportunity to contribute to the community for different events, different ideas, different things. And you can also it gives you an opportunity to contribute more in your industry. That I was not, or I did not see that before I started doing that. So there's definitely some added advantages, if you want to call it, when you become an entrepreneur or an employer. And at the end of the day, we all know that there's no risk, no gain, right? If you want to gain something, you got to take the risk and jump on it. And there is a statistics out there that 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 companies usually success, and rest of them don't. We don't hear about them. We only hear about them when they're successful, right? So we have to kind of keep that in mind as well. So something basic in terms of why you want to be an employer. And next, the hardest part is why you do not want to be an employer. And I think it's very important for all of us to kind of emphasize on this fact, because the last thing you want to do is to half-heartedly start something, and then at the middle of your journey you feel like, oh, this is not for me. That's the worst thing you can do to yourself, right? That's kind of one of the main things. I think we all need to make sure that we have a good understanding and good way to forecast, to see that coming, and make all the preparation, make all the legwork before you do. So the initial few years is going to be very hard. There's no out of that. Now, again, obviously, I can only speak for my line of work and my line of business. So I'm just basically sharing this as my own experience. There may be some businesses may not be as bad. There may be some businesses even harder than me that I'm not familiar with, right? So there's a range of how hard and how difficult it could be. Obviously a lot of work. There's a lot more work than you typically think when you are working for a company. There's a lot of things takes care in the background that the HR folks do, that the accountant does, and stuff like that. And when I'm in a small firm like mine, I'm kind of the company HR. I'm the own accountant. I'm the pretty much everything. So there's some initial I would say pressure in terms of workload and whatnot. You gotta put a lot of time.
Small question, sorry.
Sure.
So you ran the company before you started the business,
Right.
and as a office manager, what was the workload compared to what you have right now? So
correct. That's very good. That's a good point. And I was going to talk about it later a little bit, but
okay.
I had to manage my branch. So good part is you kind of learn most of the stuff that I'm doing now. There's not much new stuff I'm doing now. The only thing I'm doing in addition to what I used to do is, I worked for a big nationwide company. They had a big corporate office. They had payroll people. They had people with benefits and stuff like that. They took care of all that stuff. that is the only added thing that I'm doing now is I'm kind of managing my payroll. I'm kind of, making deals or signing contracts for health benefit insurance, health insurance benefits, medical insurance benefits, other, retirement plans, things like that. That I was not part of in the past. That's the only difference. The majority of my work used to be when I was the branch manager. I had to pretty much do my own marketing, do my own selling, get the work, perform the work, and get the work done, and go after people to get money. I mean, so it's basically what we call cradle to grave responsibility. You start off basically getting the work, do the work, complete the work on time, to their satisfaction, and then collect money. So I had to do all of that anyway. As a manager, that was kind of a responsibility. And the sad part is you sort of act like an owner when you are a branch manager for a type of work that we do. But unfortunately, you are not the owner. You're just treated as an employee from your corporate. So there was a frustration kind of all along. And that kind of actually led me to start my own, because, you just, when you're in a corporate world, you just don't see your being recognized or you're being, taken care of, I guess, lack of a better term. So that's basically, if that answers your question, Shimon.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's this definitely a little bit added work, but my work as a branch manager kind of trained me to become an entrepreneur, because, like I said, I probably had to do 80% of the work anyway that I'm doing now. And obviously, going back to my list of why you want to be careful before you jump onto something like this is you got to keep in mind that you are responsible. You are the face of the company, and the buck stops with you. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. In addition to the timing investment, you also have to think about resources, how we were going to, day one, you're not going to see a check coming from anybody, right? So there's a lag. In our fields, unfortunately, pretty significant lag sometimes. So you have to have some kind of resources available to run through that time period where, you will not see any money coming through, how much you're going to need to sustain that period. You have to have a good understanding. And of course, you need to understand the legal aspects. When you have a company, and especially if you're owning some kind of a product, or if you have employees, there are certain legal aspects. It's not that bad the more I see it. I'm just getting used to that kind of stuff now, obviously. There's the country, and we are very fortunate, and I like to appreciate that the country we live in. It is a country for doing business. I'll tell you that right at the bat. I would probably not say this 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I was not doing this full time, but it is a country where you can do business. Actually, if I move to my next slide here, that's where I'm gonna talk about, if you still want to do it now, what do you do? What are the steps? What are the things that you should do as a preparation? And just to continue on the topic we were just talking, the country, the US in general is set up to do business. That's the good part. That's the fortunate part that we are very fortunate of. And a lot of this, excuse me, setting up is very easy. It's excuse me. It sounds like it is a very difficult process. It is not. Everything is done online. You can sign up a company, registering a company. I can speak for myself here in Indiana. It just took me half an hour. All they want is your name, address, social security, and what do you want to call it? They'll check against their database to make sure there's no duplicate name. What kind of work you do, if it is a profitable, it's a non-profit or profitable, and what type of organization you want to set up. Is it there are certain categories. Obviously, there's a C Corp, that's the big corporations. There's an S Corp, which is the small business, which we are. And you can have LLC, you can have other type of company. And then obviously you have to decide upfront what you want to do before you start signing up. And you start with the state, and then you go to the federal, IRS website. Pretty simple process, pretty much similar information. And they will give you a tax identification number in the mail within like a week or two. And that's it. You are an official company. I mean, before I've done all of that, it blew my mind, and I was looking up online, and I was talking to attorneys and other people, and one of them just told me, you don't need an attorney to set up a company. It's just so easy. So that's the point that I like to make, because a lot of the folks that have not done before, even myself before I did that, I mean, I was not sure how to do it, but it's a pretty simple process. I'm assuming pretty much it's the same process in all these states. So I don't know, if anybody have any questions on that?
I think we may come back at the end.
Sure. Okay, as long as everybody's awake. Hopefully I'm not putting everybody asleep. So.
Not at all.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
My name is Muhammad Islam. I'm a fourth year PhD. I mean, it's my fifth year. I'm a fifth year PhD student. So is it possible to open an LLC with an F1 visa?
That's a good question. I don't.
Do you have a social security number?
Yes, I do.
I think then you should be able to, right?
I mean,
No.
I'm taking.
No, answer is in my understanding, you need you need to be a permanent resident to start a business in the USA. And you cannot show the earning, and earning would be illegal, but there is a workaround. You need an attorney to do so if you don't have a permanent residence in the United States.
Okay, looks like you know more than we do.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I went through it multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed some of the part. I mean, the voice was broken. So the answer is yes or no. To be, I mean, if I contact with my attorney somehow, is that possible, or what is the procedure?
Yes, there is a workaround. So you need to be either a silent partner. You will not earn the money, because you are not legally authorized to earn money in the States in F1. Outside of scholarship and those things. So there is a workaround, but you need an attorney to set up a business as a either international investor, which you would not be able to invest like $1 million or $500,000 most likely. So there is a workaround. You could be a partner, but you cannot earn money. So you need some business deals inside, but you need a partner in the United States who have a permanent residence or a citizenship. And then you could be a partner of that business. But you, by law, in the straightforward law, you cannot. But there are workaround pretty much in every law.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for the answer. And one additional question. I mean, is it possible if someone has the OPT, when I'll get OPT or in H-1B visa, or if for example, NIW?
Same. In H-1B OPT, you are not allowed to have any kind of other earning other than you are authorized to earn through your work. So H-1B, you are just authorized to a particular organization to get earning from that organization. But there are loopholes, and there are a small amount. If you are not earning, it's not a problem, but it could be a problem. So it's better to be clear. And if you're earning millions of dollars, you would be kind of in IRS radar, and it's illegal completely. So if you're earning $25, then nobody bothers. But
I mean, if it is $1,000, $10,000, the IRS will bother definitely.
By law, if you're caught, it's a problem. Even if it's $1. If you're caught, $1 is a problem. It's illegal. That's what is the case.
So when is the right time? I mean, it need to be permanent resident, or I mean, someone applies for the green card, for example, when his or her EAD card is approved, got EAD card, still he
EAD
cannot
card
do
for
business.
authorization for work, not for business. So, so EAD card, everything has very particular. So that's why it's like, if you are not permanent resident, then you need to talk with the attorney so that you cannot get into the trouble. That's what it is. But I have seen people from Brazil, even from Bangladesh. They started business as a partner, and they had some underneath documentation to save their kind of like face.
Legal bindings.
Legal, yes.
I understand. I understand. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you.
Oh, very good. That's very good. Thank you for your input and the questions as well. So just kind of moving forward, you have to have a business plan like we kind of talked about, and make sure that we have a good understanding of the revenue projection and as well as your expenses, so that you know what is your business going to look like. I mean, it has to be very detailed, in a particular field that you're going to be working on. So you have to have a good understanding of what you're going to do, how you're going to, generate your revenue to sustain. And we talked about the registration part, which is pretty simple. And then continuously evaluate, monitor to check you're on track, because business plan is just a business plan. You're kind of daydreaming and putting numbers into the spreadsheet. But reality is obviously always different. So you always have to kind of calibrate your actual performance with your business plan to see if you're on track or better than track, hopefully. And then obviously you have to be able to prepare to yourself to adapt or change. It happens, and it happened to pretty much everyone that I know of. Things will come up that you were not aware of. Things will come up that you were not planning for. And you have to be able to adapt and change your course of action to make sure that you can kind of ride the wave. Patience is really important. You just have to have a lot of patience, kind of thick skin. People will say a lot of stuff, not only in your community, from your client side. Unfortunately, there will be people who might encourage you at the beginning, and then they'll just disappear on you after you start actually the work. So that just have to be prepared. You cannot just take anything personally. You just have to, jump into it, assuming that you may not get any help. So that helps. That does happen, unfortunately, but you just have to be prepared. And it's not like somebody's fault. Things might change on the other side as well. You have to be able to deal with people, at least from our industry. That's really, really important, because we deal with people, we have clients, dealing with them on a daily basis. We're on the phone a lot of the times and talking to different clients. And again, we talked about to make sure that you have part of the business plan, that you have the resources to sustain through the period that, before you start generating revenue and so forth. So again, a lot of these things I'm talking about from my own experience and my type of work. So that may or may not apply to a lot of the other type of businesses that you might be doing. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Any questions before I kind of go back, start talk about how I did it with my company pretty much? Any other questions, comments? No?
No, I think, yeah, this would be good, your own experience, a little bit more technical information, what happens in, geotechnical engineering type of work you do. We'll be eager to listen to that. Thank you.
Sure. So like, I think Naima, right? She, in the introduction, she mentioned I work for a kind of a nationwide geotechnical company for almost over 20 years. So when I was the branch manager, we had about 8-10 employees. So I was kind of I was, like I said earlier, I had to act like an owner, but I was getting paid as an employee. I had to do everything as an owner to get the work, complete the work and collect the money and everything. So it was a good training for us. And as you can imagine, from any corporate or any corporation, all they care about is money, right? So, they would say at the end of the year, not every year, but some years, oh, you could have made more. I mean, it's very hard to please any corporate, corporation in general. So that's basically one of the, important things to kind of keep that in mind. The other part that helped me, particularly in my case, is the type of work that we do. The geotechnical engineering, it's basically a subset of civil, where we concentrate more on foundation design so we check the ground to make sure your structure, if that is a building, if that a bridge, is that a wastewater treatment plant, is that a highway, roadway, name it, everything is sitting on the ground. So somebody's going to make sure that the ground is suitable to support your structure. And that's what geotechnical engineering does. It evaluates the ground. We collect samples of the ground based on the type of structure, and then we evaluate. We have our own lab, and we do analysis to come up with a recommendation for the structural engineer or the other parts of the civil engineering, so that they take our information and complete the design. So it is a very unique field. We're very concentrated narrowly on that particular area. And another part that we also do is we also provide quality control testing or quality control inspection during construction work. So somebody have to verify that the contractor is using the right product. Like, if they're putting, concrete, we see concrete poured in all the highways or the buildings on the floor slabs and whatnot. You have to make sure that they're getting the right quality concrete, and every materials that used in the construction has a specification. It tells you, the designer, the architect, or whoever is structural engineer is, they will specify a certain specification for each type of material, and somebody have to check that. And that's what we do. We check those specifications for certain type of materials in our, based on our lab test or field test and whatever else is needed, and tell them if it meets this specification or not. So this type of work is actually, like I said, it's a unique field, not only a unique field, but it also kind of geared towards these larger projects. And one of the advantage that we have, what I realized after I started, is, there are some set aside work by federal government or the state government funded work that they want, participations from what we call minority owned businesses or other type of specialty owned businesses. And we fall under this, what we call MBE, minority business entrepreneurs, DBE, disadvantaged business entrepreneurs. And there are certain percentage of the work of large project they assign, and the general contractor or the construction manager is to hire them. So there is a little bit of an opportunity for firms like us to be able to take advantage of that special provision. Now, again, keep in mind, I'm not the only MBE, DB in the area. There is a competition there as well, but again, we're kind of weeding out those nationwide companies like I used to work before. In those years that I could not do any of these projects that I'm doing now. That's kind of the good thing about it. So there is definitely some help, but that's not the only work we do. We are still competing with my previous employer on other private projects. We're still competing with anybody else in any other type of construction that's privately funded. So it's kind of a combination. It does help, but it's not the only way we're doing it. So that's definitely a big, percentage-wise difference, and percentage-wise we can do both types of stuff that we were not able to do before. And keep in mind, locally owned companies, the local clients appreciate that, which I had, obviously could not see that coming before. Because we deal with local architects, we deal with local structural engineers, other civil engineering firms, and they kind of appreciate the fact that we are also a locally owned company and local person, rather than dealing with a corporation that nobody can find and somewhere else in the country. So there's another important parts of it. So that kind of gives you a summary of how we ended up doing it. We saw those opportunities as I was transitioning out of my previous company into my own company. I kind of took advantage of that, especially the federal government work and state government work. And it took me almost 2 years to actually get into that kind of work, because there's a lot of government paperwork that you have to go through to certify your company as qualified for those special type of businesses. So it took me some time, the first year or two, and now we are seeing the kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, per se, because we just got awarded a couple of big projects in the area. These are federal and government, state-funded projects. So it's kind of helping us out now. So like I said, I'm kind of see the results, starting seeing the results in recent times. So that's pretty much all I have. If anybody have any other questions or comments or anything you want to know in details, feel free to jump in.
I'll go one more question here. The sample collection and the lab work you mentioned, how are you doing those? Are you having to acquire the equipment, or how is that getting done?
Absolutely, yes. We have a full service lab, and that's one of the major investment in our business is you have to have a full service lab. So that the lab has to be certified through like a national bodies, like I don't know if you're anybody familiar with, it's called AASHTO, it's the American Association of State Highway Transportation Organization. It's a nationwide people, they're the one who comes out with different test procedure. ASTM is another organization, American Standard for Testing Materials. So those organizations will come and visit our lab and they will certify our lab. And if we do not have a certification, then we don't get any jobs. So that is a big part of our work. Yes.
Understood. Thank you.
We are now requesting for questions. We have some questions. We will go over those. Before that, I want to request everyone, if you have any question, you can ask, or you can do the raise hand, or you can put that in the chat also, whatever you prefer. So please go ahead if you have any question.
Yeah, should I stop sharing my screen? Or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter probably, but if you don't want to, you can stop. I'll start from our questions that we got from the event. So the first question I have here is, how was your client base developed?
Like I said, I kind of been in the same area for 20 plus years, right? So I've been working with some of the clients all the time. And again, like I said, some of the clients originally said they could help me, but for whatever reason, they could not help me. So when I transitioned to my new company, most of my new clients are the clients that I could not work before, because they concentrate on larger projects. They concentrate on those projects that I could not be part of before because of my the nationwide quality. So it is a mixed bag. I know some of them still are coming to us for their work, but a lot of them are not. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Like I said, I gained some because of the special qualifications that we got now. And I lost some because obviously they're happy with what they are or whatever, wherever else they're going. But there's a big market for this too. That answer your question?
Yes. I have a feedback question here.
Sure.
So do you have any suggestion how someone should start to develop their client base?
I think developing a relationship is really, really important, at least in my field. I mean, otherwise we cannot do anything. I mean, it's all based on relationship. You still have to be competitive. Even if you're competitive, you have to have a good relationship. That's the key. And I can tell, in my opinion, I mean, we take clients to lunches, meetings. And another thing that I did that really helped me, and I probably should have included in my slides, is I was very active with American Society of Civil Engineers in our state, in Indiana. I'm actually one of the founders for the Northwest Indiana branch of ASCE. It's the Society of Civil Engineers, which is obviously an international organization with over 100,000 membership all over the world. So having involved in that organization actually gave me a lot of opportunity to know and meet with a lot of our clients, because we are all within civil engineering field. All my clients are in civil engineering fields. And when I took the initiative to start my own branch, or we kind of revived the inactive branch, I guess. And then I'm actually the president, incoming president for the state section of ASC. So that helps me big time. That helps me in a sense, because, we're having our annual meetings with over, 100, 200 people. They see me at least by name, my face. I may not like my face, but at least they know me by name. And it does help me a lot, because there's a big, there's really important to have a name recognition. So depending on what field you are, being involved in your local, industry-based association where your clients are is very important. That's one of the things I would suggest.
Well, this is a very good and important thing you pointed out. I mean, in our area, most people are in the automotive industry, and I can speak for myself. I work in the quality area, and American Society for Quality is very active here. And I have been involved with them, but not like a leading position like you have. And it's pretty easy. People are always looking for volunteers, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, same thing applies for people in mechanical engineering or in software engineering, right? You have all the certification associations or bodies everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, can I add a little bit on this context?
Please do.
Yeah, so I had like two experience on this regard. The first one was like in kind of like I was in Chicago and I was trying to start kind of like giving some service. So I tried multiple things. It's really, it needs a lot of patience and time. It's like time flies and you are not getting anything, like pretty much months and years almost. So, and after trying a lot of things, so I started kind of like, I started getting involved with Chicago JavaScript meetup, started hosting it. And then I started another meetup, my own front-end developers meetup, just to kind of like every month there is a session and I'm the only speaker, and then at the end of the session I'm just promoting my session. And pretty much by doing it every 2-3 months I was offering special training just for $150 like dollar, and then I used to get like 10-15 people, but it's very slow. At least for me it worked very slow, but it took for me pretty much 2 years to get a kind of like consistent number of participant. And same thing I'm struggling right now, because I am trying to place developers from Bangladesh in the US companies. And after trying like pretty much almost a year, so far we placed maybe 9 of them. And pretty much last week I went to a session, and by default I'm not like a good outspoken person when the social settings. I hesitate to go to people and talk, but I tried and then keep failing to reach that contract. So it's a lot of try, go there, build a network, and then kind of like giving some values, free values, and then have some materials, and then also just speak your name to the people, even sometimes intentionally when you are kind of like a social gathering with friends among you, just talking about what you are doing. Like I did 1 minute ago, that I am trying to place people in US companies. Indirectly, I hinted them that, okay, if you need some developer in the US companies, you can call me, refer me, or ping me in this session. So that's slowly I injected my agenda here without actually telling you that, hey, I can give you this guy and then I can give you some commission if I place a developer in your company. So that's what is kind of like you need to keep doing, like I did right now. So summary is that if you need a developer in the US companies or anywhere you want to hire remotely, ping me. And you need to do the same to build your client base. Thank you. And sorry for promoting my agenda here.
That's a very good practical example. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. That's really important for anybody thinking of doing any kind of business. You have to be involved in the association of that related field. That's, in my opinion, is the very important thing. And again, client relationship matters the most. This country is based on relationship, like anywhere else, I'm sure. So when you develop relationship, I mean, we have clients, they can call me on a weekend and ask for, suggestions and stuff. And you have to have that flexibility to be able to help. It's not an 8 to 5 work. I'll tell you that for sure. You have to it's a 24/7. You may not get paid for every minute that you work, but you have to kind of think it like that.
This is a very good advice. I think all of us will be benefited who like to go into the business, because oftentimes we didn't think that way, that we need to have association, like the membership of the associations, or go with the organization, give some values first, build network. This is a very good way to do that, and oftentimes we ignore that one. Thank you very much for that advice and sharing your life experience.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, everyone. This was a good discussion. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a quick question. Do you part of the any Bangladeshi engineers network, or that give you any help or any way?
Actually, there's not many Bangladeshi where we are, and in my area that we provide services. So I kind of unfortunately lucked out. So not really, but I do appreciate, and I do get help, morally and whatnot from other people. I have one of the senior brothers from Buet. He's in Wisconsin, and he runs a similar business. He's much larger than us, of course. So Masood Alum Bhai, I don't know if anybody knows him. He's been a very, almost like a mentor to me, because I call him whenever I have questions, comments, and I called him pretty often at the beginning. So he helped me out big time, kind of setting up and kind of guiding, and what should and shouldn't do. So he's kind of a role model for me, and he's been very successful in Wisconsin area, doing exactly what we do. So I got really big help from him.
So now we know if we need this kind of help, whom to ask for, right, Akhtar Bhai?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if I can be of any help, you reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe all the young engineers is listening to today, they will think about that, and if anybody is interested, they know whom to talk to at least.
Sure.
So I have a question, so how did you manage the initial funding of your business? And then, so previously you worked in a company, and then you established a business. Now, at what point you decided to quit the job and fully concentrate on your business? I mean, what triggers you, or what gives you confidence?
Oh, right, that's true. I mean, it is never a bad time, I guess, to tell you. I should have started, obviously thinking back now, should have started maybe 10 years before I actually started. I mean, I went full-time in 2019, and one of the main reasons was, financial. I was able to gather some, loan from the bank and whatnot, because like I said before, we needed to invest on lab, setting up the lab and so forth. And that was one thing. And the other thing was my elder daughter just finished college. She got a full-time job. So that was a big relief from my end, that I thought I could probably not have to worry about her and try something different. So kind of those things kind of accumulated together, and I could see some of these bigger projects starting in 2020 and so forth. And I wanted to kind of try to take that opportunity. So there were several factors kind of helped me to make the decision. But one thing I do recommend and suggest to everyone is to try to do it a little bit when you're younger, because when you're older like me, I mean, it's a little bit on your physical strength and whatnot. But again, there is no good or a bad time. I think if you do it, you do it as long as you are prepared, obviously, properly to start doing something. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, in this case, can I add a little bit?
Sure.
So there is like a 2-3 thumb rules you can apply, and there is actually like in every state you'll find like a 2-3 waiters who are doing this kind of business, and pretty much every state. So if you just look for the network, you will find some people. And the one cut-off rule you can do, I know like Masood Bhai, who is doing a lot of hotel-related business. It's kind of like when the recession hits and you're kind of like laid off from one job, you start the business. Another one is that when your business is earning at least 60 or 70% of your living expense, this is a good time you can switch. And there is no perfect time actually for switching, and nobody will tell you, and this is very, very risk. So one safety net you can ensure if you are really, really risk averse, and most of us by nature is risk averse, we don't like to take risk. So if you have like in your bank account, if you can barely survive without earning any money from business for 1 year, then you're kind of like a pretty much reasonable, and all of us pretty much smart enough. If we need a job, we can kind of like get a job. We would be underpaid. That's what is the risk you are taking, and then you can start considering quitting your job. If you have either got laid off, or you have like money that you can survive for 12 months, a year for your family and whatever you do, or your businesses can pay you 50% of your current earning. And a friend of mine told me that worst case, what do you need to do? You need to go to Walmart and get a like a $15 per hour job, and you will survive. So that's what is the last mark.
That's why it's easy to start early, right? You can survive on $15.
Sure.
Yeah,
Somebody
that's
said
very
so the ultimate answer is that you would survive no matter what. That's what is ultimate truth.
Right.
And,
I-
you will not survive anytime, even you are earning $50 or $100. So you will survive anytime. So it doesn't matter actually.
You
I
have
think
to
at the
have
end
the-
of the, I was just going to say one small comment and my observation. I mean, the last 30 years that I've been working a little bit in Bangladesh as well as here, if you are a hard worker, nobody can stop you. That as simple as that. If you are a hard worker, if you're concentrated on, if you know what you're doing, especially this country is meant for hard work, and the system that's have in place, you will not be, nobody can stop you. If you work hard, if you mean it, if you're honest, if you try your best, you will succeed at your job. Even if you don't do business, you can still succeed in your career. If you do business, you'll be even better. I mean, that's my personal opinion, and I've seen that many places that I'm kind of experiencing it now. I mean, I tell everybody, I cannot imagine, 30 years ago, if somebody would have asked me how would my life be 30 years from that point, I probably could not answer that question, right? I could not imagine that I have 3 cars, 4 TVs, mashallah, nice house, and a nice family. I mean, we need to appreciate what we have, and we need to be able to work towards that goal. And it only happens with hard work. It doesn't happen automatically. I mean, yeah, if you're, son or daughter of a rich person, that's different. But if you work hard, you can make it work. Especially in this country, nobody can stop you. That's just my personal opinion.
Well said.
I think this is the caviar of the presentation today. Hard work can beat up anything.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone. I am going to take the last question now, if anyone has any question.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Naima.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
This is Shafiq from Atlanta, working in the transportation industry. As a transportation, I got a PA as well, but I have an interest in the business. The question is, what are the complications with the immigration status? Like, if you want to do a business in F1 status or H1 or even green card, how these things work out in the perspective of citizenship or immigration issues? Like, are we allowed to do business independently or work in another industry, which basically we don't have any, like work permit or work authorization until we get a green card or citizenship. So how those things work out?
Yeah, somebody answered that before. Whoever that
Yes.
was.
Oh, sorry.
I can, okay. This is Jonkar, currently living in Austin area. So I can give you a little bit hints. So F1, you are authorized becoming a student and you're authorized to earn either from the school, and you can work 20 hours per week. And you can buy either OPT or CPT, you can work outside a specifically assigned organization. If you want to start a business, that means your status needs to be a little bit adjusted. And it has to be issued and kind of like a permission that you are allowed to work and also maintain the F1, because F1 visa is valid if you're a student. If you're not a student, if your scholarship or studentship is gone, you are kind of illegal, right? So that's why I mentioned earlier that if you want to really do it, then it's better and safer to talk with an attorney who can do this paperwork, because by default with F1, you are allowed to be a student, earn on the campus 20 hours per week, or with special permission. Without permission, it cannot work. It becomes illegal. If you work in a gas station, it's illegal. If you are caught, you would be sent back to your original country. So that's why if you want to do that, do some extensive research. I did some research, and friend of mine, Mamnoor did little bit, started like a startup with this kind of like a robotics startup. And he, with the help of an attorney, he set up the business in a way so that he can actually work and earn from that business. There is another workaround is that like you can start a business that operates in the USA from outside. And in that case, you can register the business in the Delaware. Delaware is very, very lenient to start a business. And there is a lot of corporate people and then tax benefits and other stuff. So if you are an F1, it's better and safer to talk with an immigrant lawyer or maybe business lawyer, but most of the business lawyer would not be able to know your story. If you just find a random business lawyer, they will not get it. So you need to an immigrant or maybe search online, and it's possible, but you need to be kind of know what you are doing.
Also, to add into that, Jonkar Bhai mentioned it before, this one is also applicable for H1B2, not only F1.
Yeah. F1 OPT, APT, until you become a permanent resident. Once you're permanent resident, you're kind of like off the hook. You can do pretty much what you want to do. But everything else is kind of like you are allowed with a specific objective. And if you do something different and get caught, then it becomes kind of like a serious red flag against you.
I have one last question for Akhtar Bhai, if that is okay.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Akhtar Bhai, my question is actually about, labor exploitation versus, giving back to the society. Is like how we see the big businesses, they exploit the labor and they try to make the record profit. And whoever, gave back to the society like GM and because of their business model, they sometimes go out of business, or not go out of business. They had to close the plants and everything. And then we have Chinese model. All these Chinese companies comes in and, do the, their knuckle and bone labor exploitation, right? And they try to put that in the American model. So like, how do we manage this, right? What is the best approach? Like, it's just, we see all this going on, like Chinese work ethics versus US work ethics, and then it's just messed up to me. If you can shed some light on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my field is slightly different and unique. It is more towards the local population and whatnot. Hiring is really difficult, and it is, you have to have the right person with the right credentials, and you want to keep them in your company. That's really important, right? Especially at this time, it's very hard to keep employees with you to continue work. So what I've found beneficial throughout my career, and even when I was kind of the manager, the branch manager, I had to kind of hire and fire people too. You have to be honest and upfront with the employees and your team members. We call them team members just to give them, a little bit of better sense that they're part of a team. I completely hear what you're saying about, the model, you call it Chinese model, you call it Indian model, or whatever else you want to call it. In this country, you have to understand the mentality of the people and that you're working with and that you're hiring. Treat them the best as you can, provide more benefits so that they intend or they would like to stay with you. That doesn't mean that you're going to be successful 100% of the time, but at least I've found that I've tried to give more benefits than my competitors do. And that's one way of trying to retain them as best as possible. So that is one thing I've tried, and thankfully so far we were blessed that I don't have too much overturned, but still it happens. Still there are people who would never stay with one company because they just want more and more, and that's fine. If I can keep 90% of my staff for a long period of time, that's more than enough. And that's a challenge you have to always face.
My angle was actually how to stay in business, right? If whether you follow Amazon and exploit everyone, then you stay in business, or whether you are the GM and try to give back society and give a scholarship to your employee and employees' kids, and you had to close plans, right? So
it's a very difficult. Yeah, it's not an easy solution. There is no easy solution for this. It is a delicate balance that you have to kind of calibrate every single time for every single employees. Obviously, Amazon and a GM is a different scale that I am talking about, right? I mean, I only have 12 employees at this point, but I started from one, right? That was myself, and in going to 12, it's not easy either. And then keeping all of these 12 employees for a long period of time. I mean, I'm only 3 years full time. 2 of them are basically with me from sort of the beginning. So you have to, I'm talking about a very small scale. I'm talking about, I know them.
Of course. Yeah.
I know their personal life. I'm trying to do as best as possible without going overboard, of course. But that's how, hopefully, and again, tomorrow, Monday I go, I mean, somebody might submit a resignation. I don't know, but at least I try from my side to the best of ability to do the best we can and try to become, give them more than what competitors will do, just so that hopefully they'll stay. That's kind of the approach I'm taking.
Thank you, Akhtar Jaman Bhai. Thank you, Mahbubur Rahman Bhai. We are kind of at the end of our session. So I thank everyone who joined today, and I request everyone to join ABIA Michigan chapter. Please go over our ABIA Michigan webpage and have a look. Please try to register. That will give you the chance to see the next webinar also. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me, and thank you everybody for your time.
Thanks for doing it. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Everybody, you too. Thank you.